What's good, YouTube? I'm back here with it in the garden. Hoping today's video won't be too long, but I got a couple different things that I'm gonna do in the garden. So in this bed, I'm gonna go ahead and transplant the okra. I feel pretty comfortable about the temperature, so I'm gonna go ahead and transplant the okra, and it'll be basically the same exact way that I transplanted the sage a couple days ago. And then going back to the garden box in the back, I'm gonna go ahead and harvest a couple things. So I got the lettuce, the Swiss chard, and the spinach here. I'll probably harvest some of the lettuce and harvest some of the spinach and show what I do. And then I might everything in the greenhouse I'm gonna definitely bring out here, but I also might plant some cucumber in those cells right there. I don't think I'll plant in all 7, and I don't even think I'll plant any of them, to be sure. I'll see how I feel after I do the okra, but that's pretty much all I'm gonna do in today's video. So I'm gonna go ahead and slide back over to the other garden box and show how I harvest maybe the arugula too, right there. I'm gonna show at least how I'm gonna harvest some of the lettuce and some of the spinach. All right, so I'm in this box right here, and I got like more of a little close-up look at the lettuce, and all the other vegetables as well. And I'm gonna go over to the spinach whenever I do that one too. But with leafy vegetables, what you want to do, and hopefully it stays clear, but with leafy vegetables, what you want to do, they continue to grow back over and over again until they're ready to flower, and they grow from the middle of the plant. So you want to harvest the leaves on the outside of the plant. That way it continues to grow. So after I'm done, it'll look a lot skinnier and a lot smaller, like a smaller lettuce bulb. But over the next couple of days, it'll replenish itself and grow larger leaves. And also another thing, whenever you're harvesting leafy vegetables like lettuce and kale and spinach and all that, the earlier you harvest them, which would be considered like the baby version, so like baby spinach or baby lettuce or baby kale, the earlier you harvest them, the denser the nutrients are. At least that's what I've read. There's no real rhyme or reason about whenever I do them. I just harvest it whenever I'm ready to eat it, to be honest. That way it's just as fresh as possible and I'm not having to waste any food. But I'm gonna put the camera down, or I'm gonna at least grab the tools I use and show how I do it, and I'll zoom around to the spinach when I do it. But like I said, you just want to harvest the ones on the outside of the plant and then let some more come back later whenever it grows from the middle of the plant. Alright, so these are pretty much the only supplies that I'm gonna use, and then I got my bowl to put them in. And then like I said, what you want to do is get it to where it's the outside leaves, and I try to get it as close as possible to the bottom of the plant. So that's what one will look like whenever it's harvested. I'm gonna pretty much do the same thing for all of them, but I want to still leave enough of the plant where it doesn't like stress it out too much. So yeah, I just keep harvesting them. So as you can see, that plant looks a little bit, I guess you would say, not as healthy as the biggest ones, but it's just as healthy. But the larger leaves have been removed. Once I come back over the next couple of days, you'll see it'll replenish pretty much back to the same size within probably about 2 or 3 days. So I'm gonna go ahead and harvest the rest of them, and I'll show what it looks like as soon as I'm done with that as well too. So here's what it looks like after I harvested them, and then this is all of them that I harvested right here. So it's not a huge harvest, but it's enough probably for a salad or two, and then I'm gonna harvest the spinach as well. But you can see how the plant looks a little bit smaller, but it really doesn't look all that different. The size it was at before I harvested it, it'll probably be back at that size probably within the next, I can't even say probably right, but in the next 2 to 3 weeks, or probably 2 to 3 days. And then I'll just continue to harvest it throughout the season, and then that's why I plant in succession. So you can see a lot of the other leafy vegetables have started to sprout, and the arugula in the other bed. That's why I plant them in succession. So I'll be able to harvest them consistently throughout the entire growing season. And then, once these plants eventually run out, I can just replace them with more lettuce plants if I need to, and harvest the seeds from them as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and go around to the spinach ones and do the same exact thing that I did with the lettuce. that's pretty much all the spinach that I harvested. So that's the spinach right here, the lettuce, and then the red lettuce or whatever it's called. So it's a pretty decent harvest. This is probably enough, like I said, for probably 2 or 3, maybe even 4 salads. Or I can mix them into some smoothies as well. And what I'm gonna do is whenever I go inside after I finish with transplanting the okra, I'm gonna show how I wash them off and then how I store them for a couple hours, just so they're as plump and as crisp and as fresh as possible. Alright, so I'm over here now at these 3 little corners, or 3 little squares, so I can transplant the okra. So I have like a green variety, the orange variety, and the red variety. I planted the red one a little while ago, but it didn't sprout, so I planted some more. But I think I'm just gonna plant the red one directly into the soil since I planted those like 2 days ago. And when I transplanted, the difference between this one and the sage is that this is a biodegradable pot, so I don't have to remove the soil from the pot. So that will be literally the only difference from me transplanting the sage in my previous video and me transplanting the okra in this one. And what I think I'm gonna do, I think I'm gonna get away from using the peat pots because I think it dries out the soil way too much, especially whenever I keep the plants outside. So I think I'm gonna just continue to reuse the plastic pots that I have, or just reuse stuff that I have at home to transplant stuff, just to make it a little bit easier, in my opinion, to keep the soil moist. So I'm gonna go ahead and add some feed. So I'm gonna till it up a little bit first because there's a couple weeds in here, just to go ahead and get the weeds out and make sure the soil is well drained and even. I'm gonna add a little bit of feed into the hole. That way, once the okra breaks through the pot that they're in, they'll have some food to go ahead and hit, and that'll probably happen within the next week or 2. So that'll hit right at the perfect time. Hopefully, it'll break down a little bit more as well. Then I'll show what it looks like once I transplant the okra fully into the soil. Alright, so we're starting to get a little bit more traffic, so excuse the noise, but this is what it looks like when it's transplanted. So that's the green one right there. Those are the 2 orange ones. I'll thin it out to 1 plant probably in another week or so when I see which one takes off and which one is a little bit stronger than the other. That's the one I'll keep. And then in this one is where I planted the red one. So I just planted those from seed, and then the ones I planted in that pot, I'm gonna just keep. Maybe see if I can grow some potted okra, or just give the plant away to somebody else. And what I decided to do is go ahead and transplant the cucumbers over here. So I already started the process of getting those transplanted into the garden bed. The reason I'm going ahead and doing it today is these have already sprouted, and I'm gonna have to transplant them anyway. But I don't want the okra or the cucumbers to like overgrow each other, especially in this corner, because I don't want, for instance, like I don't want like that okra plant to get real large, and then I don't plant this right here, and then the sun is blocked off from this plant. So I'm gonna just go ahead and transplant them now. That way, this is a corner that I think could get kind of tricky. So I figured it's best to go ahead and get all the stuff planted while they're small, so they can all get equal sunlight. Then what I'll do is, as soon as I'm finished transplanting cucumbers, I'll show what the whole bed looks like once everything is fully transplanted and watered. And then I'm gonna move everything out that's in the greenhouse out into the yard. And then I'm gonna show what I do with the leafy vegetables that I just harvested. I might harvest some arugula, haven't decided yet, but I'm gonna show what I'm gonna do with the lettuce and the spinach that I already harvested. All right, so there you have it. Also, I don't know if you can hear it, but it's a nice little breeze going on right now. I mean, it's just beautiful being out here every morning. But yeah, there you have it. I went ahead and transplanted the cucumbers in there, and I got the okras taken care of over there. And so you can see the garden bed is really starting to fill out, man. Like I would say probably mid-June, within the next 2 months, because it still is April. It'll low-key kind of be overwhelming to see how much vegetables and how many plants actually grow, Lord willing. But you can see the bed is really starting to fill out. I'm gonna probably be planting some more stuff over there here in the next couple days, and then once the tomatoes and the peppers kind of take off a little bit more, I'm gonna show how to transplant those, because that's a little bit different. But yeah, it's really starting to take off. But the next thing I'm gonna do is the lettuce and the spinach that I just harvested. I'm gonna show what I do next, just to go ahead and prepare it so I can be able to eat it soon. And then that'll pretty much wrap up the video. Alright, so here's the lettuce and the spinach that I just harvested. I went ahead and washed it as well. I didn't record that, it's pretty easy. I just rinsed it like 3 or 4 times with water, make sure there was no dirt or any kind of bugs in it or anything. But I wanted to zoom in real close to make sure I had good light and to show exactly what I'm doing. So all I'm gonna really do is to keep it plump and to keep it as fresh as possible. If you look at whenever you harvest the leafy vegetables, the part that was connected to the plant, so like the stem of the leaf, technically, you want to make sure that's the part that you want to concentrate on. So what I do is I submerge as much as I can of the leaf in water, and I let it soak in like cool water, like not freezing cold but not warm at all, but like cool water. I let it soak for about 20 to 30 minutes before I actually put it into the fridge, and I won't show what it looks like afterwards, just because it's really no point. But I'm gonna fill it up real quick, and like I said, I really just fill it up as much as possible. I'm gonna go ahead and put the hose on it real quick. I'll time lapse it just so it, you know, it's not a waste of time. It's just water running, and then I'll come right back on it. Alright, so that's what it looks like. It's probably hard to see the water just because it's bright outside, or it's the sun and the lighting. But you can see I pretty much submerged them completely in the water, and it's cool water. It's not freezing cold and it's not warm either. I'm gonna just let it sit like this for the next 30 minutes or so before I put it into the fridge, and then it'll, you know, like keep its crisp, you know, crunch to it. You don't want the leaves to be wilted over. So if you ever harvested leafy vegetables and they were really wilted, this is an easy way to make sure that they stay plump, or you can plump them back up just because they're still able to absorb some water, and that's where the crisp comes from. So that pretty much wraps up today's video. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, make sure you subscribe and turn the notifications on so you don't miss out on any new videos. I have a lot more coming, and it's really starting to kind of ramp up with the growing season, so you don't want to miss out. But until next time, guys, peace.